Welcome to the Launch with Words podcast with your host, Bridget Willard. We're going to talk about all things content, blogging, articles, videos, whatever has words and goes on your website.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Launch with Words. This is season 2, episode 8 with my very good friend, Carol Stephen. Carol, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great today. It's a wonderful day. We just had a big rainstorm and we're in the middle of a drought, so we're very happy.
Yeah, that's good. And I love the way it smells after the rain.
Oh, yeah.
It's just
Everybody just loves going outside after the rain.
it smells so fresh and clean, and it's just wonderful. Gets all the pollen out of the air. So when it comes to like your small, I mean, I know like you have roots in technical writing and you've worked with a lot of startups in the Silicon Valley area of the Bay Area of California, but you also work with small businesses. So a lot of times you're doing the writing, but I imagine sometimes people are like, where do I even start? I mean, what is your advice to small businesses who know they need to be blogging? Like, we've said it enough. Like, how do they even start?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think the number one thing is they have to find their audience. So they need to know who their audience is. Like, who is that person in the middle of their target? And I think for some people, that's probably changed since they started their business, and they might not have revisited who their audience is. So if it's been 2 or 3 years, I'd really recommend that people revisit figuring out who their target audience is. Now, you don't necessarily have to pay somebody to help you do this, but you could find somebody who's just outside your business and someone who'll be honest with you to give you some advice.
Yeah, that's really important. Rhonda with Fat Dog Creatives and I are doing a presentation at our small business chamber in a couple of weeks. And we're like, your website has to talk to your customer. It's not about you.
That's
and then
right.
we both said that to each other, and then we both went and looked up our own websites really quick.
Well, that's right, because I was thinking about my own business and it's changed so much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is something that I'm telling myself as much as I'm telling the person listening to this, that that person that you were targeting is not the same person. And that goes for everybody. So a refresh is good. Even if it is the same audience, it's a good reminder to do this exercise to figure out who that person is. So,
Yeah, for sure. So once you know that your audience is like property managers, for example,
right.
how do you find those topics to write about that will resonate with property managers?
Well, I think one thing that really helped me was figuring out who my target audience is, what they look like specifically. And that means like physically, what do they look like?
Okay.
But also socially, what do they look like? And psychographically, what do they look like?
Wow.
So that means, and that's probably the most important thing, is knowing what people believe, what they dream about, what their fears are, what their desires are, that kind of thing. And that's beyond, the very basic thing of knowing the demographics, like age and sex and race and that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's
the invisible ones.
Can you give us an example of when what that would look like for someone? Like psychographically, that's a 75-cent word, Carol. Like I've never heard that, but it makes so much sense.
I think Seth Godin used that word.
That makes sense. Yeah. Seth Godin. How do they think? We're going to look at them psychographically.
Here's an actionable tip, and that is to go and look at Seth Godin, look at some of his videos on YouTube, and that will help you a lot. So figuring out those pain points, like your audience, do they have a good grasp of technology? How do they spend their free time? And how does your product or service fit into that person's life?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
those are all
you may
good
have to
questions.
go and do a questionnaire or something with some of your top audience members to figure out some of these questions. What are the answers to these? What health issues do they have?
Yeah. And we do evolve. Like, I love that you're talking about essentially that persona document or
Hmm.
those personas and then evolving them. So, like, me, I'm bullish on Twitter, and I've said so many times that personas are basically legitimized stereotypes, but at the same time, I always say, of course, you have to have a persona, but you also need to reevaluate it. And that's why I love Twitter, because you can see how people have changed, even how they're speaking within your own industry and the problems that they're having. Like COVID has completely shifted the way we think about the houses we want, just because a lot of knowledge workers are working at home and they're going to always work at home because they choose
Right,
it. So
right.
now they need that third bedroom. But what if you have two people that both need an office and they can't be in the same room because they're driving each other banana pants?
Banana pants.
Yeah.
Another 75-cent word. Well, I think for people, in the real estate market, it's important to have an outdoor area and you can move your office outside or at least work outside a little bit of the time when the weather is good.
Yeah.
So that's something that people could do.
Yeah. So once the small business owner is like, okay, I've been doing this for a while. I've reevaluated who Bob is. He goes by Robert now because he wants to be viewed as more of an adult. And he's still watching science fiction, but really he just subscribes to Disney Plus. And his big problem as a property manager is he doesn't want to have to deal with all these, you know, electrical, energy costs. The energy costs being so high, right? So you're a window film company, for
Hmm.
example,
Yep.
and how do you reach Robert, who's having to deal with high energy costs managing his facility?
We always talk about energy saving as well as cost saving. And cost saving is something that it doesn't matter whether there's a pandemic or not. Everybody is interested in saving money.
Yes.
So that's got to be one of the top things that you talk about, no matter what field you're in. How does this product save you money? And if you can make that an emotional topic, or if you can somehow create some humor around the topic, that also helps.
Yeah.
So we tend to have a lot of funny content. The blog posts are often funny because, at a certain point, you're just repeating yourself when you're talking about something like window film. And a lot of these niche topics are like that.
Yeah.
You have to find a new angle.
And you're really good with using humor with throughout content marketing. So, like, okay, so yesterday, now this dates this episode, but last night, Will Smith basically bitch slapped Kevin Hart on the stage of the Oscars. And
Right.
I've already seen on Instagram this morning 3 memes just from businesses here in San Antonio, Texas. I mean, like everything can be a joke and it's never like too soon anymore. I was
Right.
like, wow, that was like 5 hours ago, you
You're
guys.
right. There used to be like a certain amount of time before people felt safe to talk about it. But I think with the rise of social media, that time has like really decreased. And also people are on a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you use humor in a good way with, you like a service-based business?
What I find is that you write the blog post or whatever you're creating first, and then you inject humor into it at the end.
Ah, aha.
Yeah,
I That makes a lot more sense.
yeah, and then you have to be really careful with humor because it can backfire,
Oh, for sure.
as Will Smith found out. Right,
Yeah, don't joke about anybody's wife ever, and then you're
right.
fine. But
Especially if
like,
they're sitting right there in the audience looking at you.
dude, I was like, I really liked her outfit, but like her face said more than Will Smith's slap.
Yes.
Poor thing.
Yes.
But that's the thing, is humor is tricky because we all have different things, and as it gets closer to our reality, it feels more offensive. Like,
Hmm.
but but it's nobody wants to read technical papers, you know.
Right, right. So what I would do is create some kind of, it doesn't have to be a manual, but just a few things that you're not going to talk about or you're not going to write about. So I think it's important to have empathy for your audience.
Yeah, that's really where the humor comes in. Like, I feel like it's one thing to make fun of yourself. It's a
Hmm.
totally different thing to make fun of other people. But
Right.
you could, like, do a Dave Letterman top 10 reasons why you like paying high energy bills. You know, you could do the opposite.
Yeah.
Instead, it's more like casual and fun. It's not like you really do hate the world and want to ruin the environment. Like, it could be like just top level like that, but it could be a little more engaging, and people are like, oh wow, I didn't know that I could get an installation that has a higher R value or whatever like that. Um,
Right. And it's always adding a little knowledge in there, but making it funny too, like using more casual language.
yeah. So, for people that are looking to hire someone to write for them because they're like, they're doing their own yoga studio, they're doing Pilates classes.
Hmm.
That's what consumes most of their time. Their own business development, creating the flows, for example. And how does that person even go and find a freelance writer like yourself? How do they even start that journey to find someone to write for their business?
I would talk to friends and then, friends of friends.
Yeah,
And you
just
can go
ask them.
online and start seeing, like who is writing about this. I mean, Google's your best friend. You have a library in your pocket.
That's true. Oh man, it's just come a long way since the microfiche and a roll of dimes, hasn't it?
Yes, definitely.
But so, like, when a client comes to you, do you have a
Hmm.
qualification process, or do you do test projects? How does that work?
It's important for me that I don't have to talk them into my services. Like, I want that person to already be qualified when they contact me. At this point,
Yeah,
I'm not going to talk to somebody who needs to be convinced about the power of social media. I mean, 10 years ago, maybe,
yeah,
but now there's no way, especially after the pandemic. People really have realized how important it is.
oh, for sure. I'm the same way. I'm like, listen, I'm not evangelizing you to Twitter anymore. I've
Hmm.
written some blog posts. If you don't like money, I don't know what to tell you. Do you want people to see your stuff, or you just don't care like about your
Yeah,
business at
no, if
all?
yeah, and I usually know like right away off the bat if they don't believe in social media or they don't see how powerful it is. I mean, how do people find you?
Yeah. When they say word of mouth, I'm like, what do you think social media is?
Yeah,
Just a
exactly.
bunch of Will Smith memes today, but like, 2 years ago was some other meme. It's
Right.
just a Karen meme or whatever. I feel like the pandemic has really intensified our use of humor as a coping mechanism.
Oh, for sure. It'll be
And
interesting to see how that changes after the pandemic's completely over.
yeah, I mean, I don't even know how much our society's been indelibly changed by our isolation. And so that's why I feel like even more important now than ever it is to be top of mind. I mean,
Hmm.
even here in San Antonio, people are finally going to like chamber events in person,
Hmm.
and like the small business council I'm on, we're finally having in-person meetings, but they were all virtual before. They were
Hmm.
still virtual. And even when you're with the other people and you have a mask, you don't see all those smiles.
Right.
So we've lost a lot of what makes us relate to other people and other
Hmm.
businesses. And so I feel like it's even more important to convey that through imagery and words on your website and social. How do you think it's changed with people posting, on LinkedIn or Twitter? Have you seen any of that really change the last couple of years with small businesses?
I think empathy is more important than ever. And if somebody's bullying somebody else, for example, that doesn't go over. People are quick to jump in and help that person.
Yeah.
I think that's become more evident over the last couple of years, because like everybody's struggling right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier, which is, who is the person in the middle of your target?
Hmm.
How do they think? And how do they feel? And what are they afraid of? It's like almost like method acting, would you say?
Yeah, you really have to get inside the skin of that person. You have to figure out what's important to them and then find out how you can help that person.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter so much that it's your service, but you can talk about other things that are going to be important or that are pain points.
Yeah. What do you feel about more personal blogging when it comes to a business owner? I mean, I know like some of my clients appear on podcasts and they talk a little bit about why they started their business
Hmm.
and how they started their business, where they went to school and things like that. I mean, does any of that, is that valuable or is it too much? Do you
I
have
think
a,
it is valuable
yeah,
because you never know what it is that's going to make somebody hire you or buy your service or
yeah,
product. And I think it is valuable. I mean, of course, if you're a Nazi, maybe don't talk about that.
yeah.
I think it's
Well, yeah.
valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like I think people are reluctant to give up personal details, but
Hmm.
I'm always like, there's got to be something. If you like golfing, then just say you
Yeah.
go golfing.
If
And
you're
then,
crazy about dogs,
yes, and
you
then it
know?
gives us something to talk to you about because,
Yeah.
a lot of times you come across a business on social and they go to their website and it's just like, meh, meh.
Right. Exactly. So,
Like show some personality. There's got to be something you're willing to tell us. Like don't put your social security number up there and stop doing the date of birth things on Facebook. But but like it'd be nice to know, if you're watching March Madness, or
hmm.
if your people already left, or if you prefer a latte or a chai latte, or you don't even drink tea at all, you're just all about mineral water. Like, who
Yeah.
are
I,
you?
I think those things are valuable to share. For example, and I was thinking about my own target audience. It started out a lot older, and it was mostly women who weren't very tech savvy. And then my whole audience became younger, more tech savvy, and it included a lot of startups. And now I'd say my target audience, my target market are mostly Asian. And
Okay.
I really love that. So, it's a way for me to go back to my roots and figure out where I came from. And it's just so interesting to see how things change.
So as you, the business owner, are evolving, your priorities evolve, and
Mhm.
that's sort of reflected in the persona of the people that you're working with.
Yes, exactly. And you
Wow.
don't know what it is that's going to attract people.
That's so true. I mean, when I first started, it was all about WordPress people. I have one WordPress client.
Wow.
Yeah. And my other tech client is sort of WordPress adjacent,
Hmm.
but it's not. It's really for Jamstack. So like my biggest client is a big data company, and my
Hmm.
second biggest client is a science company, and then my next client is a cremation company. And let me tell you about the death care industry. There's a lot. They have their own trade shows. They have their own podcasts. It's a different world.
I'm not sure I heard what you said. Death,
death
death.
death care.
Oh, death care.
Yeah,
Wow.
like cremation, urns, funeral parlors,
Mhm.
writing obituaries.
Wow.
It's totally like a different, it's like completely opposite of like building websites.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I'm like, but my experience with being a widow, right?
Mhm.
And writing about life insurance and understanding life insurance. And one of my clients, we write for baby boomers. And it's just like, that's all stuff that I've been through. I understand Medicare. I understand what they cover and what they don't. And so it's like,
Wow.
as
Yeah.
I've aged and experienced life, people have gravitated toward me because of my personal story. And I
Yeah.
feel like part of what I'm extracting out is like, live your life in a truest way to yourself, and then allow that to attract the ideal customer for you.
Yeah. I love that.
You're so
That's
awesome.
that's amazing. No, you.
Ah, love it to the moon and back, Carol.
To you, for sure.
So, how do people find you on the internet, or how do you want them to find you? Do you want them to find
Well,
you?
actually, I'm so busy right now. I got even busier during the pandemic, and for a lot of people, or a lot of businesses, their businesses slowed down. So I feel very blessed that
Oh,
my business is really booming. Um, so I'm not really taking new clients right now, but who knows?
do you want them to
Anything could
read your
happen.
blog?
Yeah, I would love people to read my blog, and that is getting more personal too. So I'll probably be writing about some of these things that we talked about today on a
Uh,
blog post in the future because I'm still continuing, once a week to create some kind of a post.
Awesome. So, do you want to tell people that website address?
Oh, it's yoursocialmediaworks.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carol. You're the best.
Oh, thank you. Is that it?
Yeah, I'm going to press the outro.
Whew.
Don't hang up yet.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to Launch with Words, a podcast by BridgetWillard.com. If you like this podcast, why not go ahead and share it with your friends, small business owners, peers, your brother. I really appreciate your attention. If you have any ideas, contact me on my website. Follow me at Bridget M. Willard on Twitter. And I hope to see you on the next episode or the next season.